Hi, everybody. Hi, it's RPG Grandma with more Metamorphosis Alpha. We're going to talk about leadership potential and why it's so different than what you see in D&D and in the later Gamma World. So, leadership potential is clearly the gloss for charisma in Metamorphosis Alpha. It has a similar function. It lets you get followers. It helps determine the maximum number, loyalty. All this stuff is based on that leadership potential score, just like you see in original D&D. There might be some numerical differences there, but the concept's the same. And I'd have to put the numbers right next to each other to double check that. I know by Gamma World there is some slight numerical differences, but it's not major. All right. So what's so different about it? Well, pure strain humans. That's where you start hearing that term is in Metamorphosis Alpha, carries over to Gamma World, and those are the humans who haven't mutated. Then you have mutant humans, and then you have the mutant animals who are intelligent and can learn to operate equipment and things like that, right? Well, only the pure strain humans get the charisma score, basically, in a nutshell, in Metamorphosis Alpha. Only they are seen as having leadership potential. The other two races are not seen as having that potential at all. That is a big difference between D&D, where all the races have some kind of potential for leadership, right? And Gamma World, later Gamma World, where all the races have some kind of potential for leadership. So when you create a character, rules as written in Metamorphosis Alpha, only pure strain humans get all 6 attributes. All of them. Okay, everybody else only gets 5. So, and it has to do with how they were thinking mutants would be. They would be distrusting of each other. Mutant animals wouldn't trust each other. They wouldn't trust mutant humans. But for some reason, everybody just would trust humans because of their force of will and things like that. Like they were the only ones who could get people to cooperate and or force them to cooperate. And that's that was it. That was the perk there. The other weird thing in the rules, when you got down into the rules, was later on in the book, you have to figure out how to use this ancient technology. Well, they have a complexity chart, and it said to use the leadership potential of the character to figure out how complex the complexity chart, how hard it would be, right? And which is weird. Well, that turned out to be a typo or a mistake. An article by James M. Ward in 1977 in the Dragon Magazine, Volume 1, number 5, basically said you're supposed to be using the mental score, okay, mental resistance score, because that's analogous to intelligence and not the leadership potential for that chart. So that's important to know if you play this game, all right? And that then makes a heck of a lot more sense because the mutant humans and the mutant animals could figure out to use technology. At least the NPCs could. And not to have the PCs be able to do it didn't make any sense. So that's the fix for that. Another problem, and you can really see it when you compare Metamorphosis Alpha to, say, Gamma World, or you'd been playing D&D, is that there's a whole lot of things that charisma in D&D and Gamma World allow characters to do. Well, besides maxing out, how many followers you can, hirelings you can have, and how loyal they are. Also, reactions. So when the NPCs and the PCs meet, Oh, who are you? Who are you? And they have conversations and stuff, and we want to trade and whatever, right? Well, you do reactions uh, roll. That didn't make it into the Metamorphosis Alpha rules. It should have been there. It wasn't. Um, the Gamma World fix is Minimagic. It's the exact same chart. Okay. And they added in a lot of stuff that was in Minimagic into Gamma World, the concepts and similar numbers, um, the modifiers and stuff like that. They also added in a modifier chart of, pure strain human to mutant human to mutant animal. And, mutant human to pure strain human to mutant animal. And, all the negatives. And they have like there's this nice little chart in there to help the DM, figure out um, uh, how everyone might react to each other, how that affects the raw dice roll. So that's in there. Things that are missing are like long-term loyalty. I don't remember that being in the Gamma World rules, but it is in the D&D Min Magic rules. Let's see. Oh, when you subdue and capture another person, you use that charisma score to determine if that person or monster will then become loyal to you and be like, oh yes, yes, I want to be with you now, and become part of your little gaggle of minions. Yes, you were supposed to get minions, people. So that's one of the things they do wrong in 5e. Minions. I don't think people understand this. But at any rate, you need minions in a deadly game. You do. So, they're called henchmen or followers. Also, sometimes hirelings if you pay them. And how to adjust for all that. And so when you play these older games, sometimes they're missing stuff, especially when they have like a sibling or sister game or a parent game. And if you go back to the parent game, in the case like D&D, you can find the rule that kind of got forgotten to be put in there. But yeah, big difference is how humans are seen in Metamorphosis Alpha versus how they're seen in Gamma World. Because in Gamma World, you could have a cool pure strain human. You could also have some genocidal maniac pure strain human. So, very, very different, right? But when you think about Metamorphosis Alpha, you could have the same scenarios. Cool humans and then not so cool humans. So, I think certain things came up relatively quickly in the game. And so by the time Gamma World's published, these concepts are now kind of fixed, and they put those fixes in Gamma World, basically. So we'll keep working on this. There's lots to go over on Metamorphosis Alpha. I hope you guys like looking at these old games, kind of getting an insight on how games develop. So Metamorphosis Alpha gave rise to Gamma World because people were writing letters to TSR, okay, and they wanted a whole planet, not just a spaceship. And then the spaceship came out of D&D because Gary and James, Mr. Ward, they had a conversation about a sci-fi game, and Gary told James to write it, and that was similar to D&D. So yes, there's a progression, and sometimes you have to go back in the progression to find a rule that's missing. So this is how you deal with older games. Okay, everybody. I hope that you found this helpful. I know it's been a Mayhem Monday for a bunch of us, including me. Have a great evening, and there's more to come. Really, there is. I am working on a big monster paper on a specific monster from D&D. And when I get it done, I'll do a monster video on that one. Maybe a few more days. Maybe next week.